Call to order the Finance Committee meeting for May 16, 2017. Item number 1, please.
Consider approval of Finance Committee minutes of May 2nd, 2017.
Review of the minutes. Are there any corrections?
Move the approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 1 passed. Item number 2, please.
Consider approval of claims for all city departments for April 27th, 2017 through May 10th, 2017.
Do we have a report from the Purchasing Committee?
Yes, sir. The purchasing committee met earlier today and reviewed the report of claims, and I move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the claims. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 2 passed. Item number 3, please.
Consider approval to submit an application to the Certified Healthy Oklahoma Communities Incentive Grant Program for a grant of up to $70,000 as recommended for approval by the Muskogee Wellness Initiative, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, let me first introduce Kristen Carollo with the Muskogee Health Department and also a member of the Muskogee Wellness Initiative. You all may remember that we applied for the Certified Healthy Communities Excellence Award and received it last year due to some of the changes that we made, not only in city policy but also in some of our ordinances, particularly as it relates to tobacco and vaping. So as a result, we now have the opportunity to write for some additional grants from the TSET endowment. And so Kristen's here to talk about the recommendation of the Wellness Initiative, who is recommending that we write for an additional $70,000.
Thank you, Kristen.
Hello, how's everyone doing today?
Good.
Good to see you guys. The $70,000, I'm the board facilitator for the Muskogee Wellness Initiative. Dr. Baker had a few things come up, so he's unable to be with us. But the MWI board members voted on a few projects that we're going to look at to use this money for, and neighbors.
I think they've come in behind you.
You're the devil. The Neighbors Building Neighborhoods is going to write the grant for us for up to $70,000, but we're looking at 4 different projects. Dr. Baker, you want to come up here? We're looking at 4 different projects. We're going to check into a couple of them are going to be sidewalks. One is going to be a mobile grocery store, and the other one was going to be
Bike rentals.
Yes, the bike rentals. So we have 4 different things we're going to look into with the cost, and hopefully get the full $70,000 because the cap is at $120,000 for our community our size. So we previously got $50,000.
Now, can you explain the statement, "Speak of the devil," and he walks in? I'm not sure what that means.
The sidewalks, we've actually looked at, we talked with Roy Tucker previously about all this, and the sidewalks, much needed sidewalks, children walking the streets in between the Port City and the Quick Trip there on the west side, and on the east side, it's Country Club Apartments down to the Come and Go there. And so both very much children, people walking the streets, and obviously those are both off major highways. So you've got 69 highway coming in to town and Port City right there, and then you've got over the Shawnee bypass over there. So both areas much needed pedestrian walkway, and that would really fill the bill for both of those. So looking into the cost on all of that, and obviously this money would go a long ways to help with that as far as the walking, the signage, and the pouring of the concrete. The other 2 projects, the one that you mentioned was the bike rentals. Certainly as there's need for that, we've built these beautiful Centennial trails, and we'd love to have access to more bikers out on those Centennial trails. We also have the sharrows and the bike lanes in town around here, and everyone keeps on saying, we built all this, why don't we use it? Well, a lot of people don't have access to the bicycles. We've talked about the possibilities of also having rental at the start of the Centennial Trail. Also maybe having a separate group of them over at the Honor Heights Park that people could ride around the park on bicycles too. So 2 possibilities there. We've also talked about aquatic equipment and the possibilities of working with Mark and trying to get the aquatics, like what's the current thing? The paddle paddleboards, kayaks, things like that that we could bring back to the Honor Heights Park. So lots of projects going on that we've got in our kind of our wish list. We prioritize those and felt like that the way the grant's written right now is they want concrete projects that will stay. And so based on that, the sidewalks look to be the one that would be that would have the greatest fruition for the future. So questions?
Any additional questions?
Maybe
We have a motion?
Move for
Chairman.
approval.
Mr. Ivory's wanting to be
Ivory's got a
recognized.
question.
I think those sidewalks, best thing could happen. I just pray to God we get them. You know, because that's, like I say, those people walking on those streets,
Walking the streets.
it just scares you.
Exactly right.
When you passing them, you could hit them.
And we've looked at doing potentially going to Come and Go. They have a way to submit a grant for funds. We haven't fully looked into that yet, but we're looking to try to see if we can get some matching funds as well to help pay for that. So hopefully when we do approach them or we find something else to help us counteract the cost, so we can potentially do both of them.
Leverage it with both Quick Trip and Come and Go to see if we can get them to help out. Obviously, it's a direct pathway to both of their stores, so that would be a fit.
We appreciate y'all, your work. I turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I know I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve this item. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 3 passed. Item number 4, please.
Consider approval of receiving donated funds for the months of March 2017 in the amount of $494 and April 2017 in the amount of $1,096 for a total of $1,590 for the city's animal shelter sponsorship program as per the attached list, or take other necessary action.
Chief?
Mr. Chairman, Council, in the month of March, we received $494, and in April, we received $1,096 for an aggregate total of $1,590 for our animal shelter spay and neuter fund, and I would request that the council receive these monies.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve this item. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 4 passed, and that is the final item on the Finance Committee.
And we'll now call to order the Public Works Committee meeting. Item number 1.
Consider approval of Public Works Committee minutes of May 2nd, 2017.
Any additions or changes?
Move the approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 2.
Consider approval of the preliminary and final plat for Lily Creek Addition, consisting of one lot on .68 acres located on Cooter Road east of Gulick Street, or take any other necessary action.
Mr. Garman.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the applicants, Matthew and Annette Williams, is requesting approval of the preliminary and final plat of Lily Creek Addition, consisting of one lot on .68 acres. Property is located on Cooter Street east of Gulick Street. The reason for platting the property is to allow the property to be developed residentially. They are proposing a new single-family dwelling on the property. As part of the plat, they are also requesting a variance request to 2 of the subdivision regulations. One is section 70-83, which is street and sidewalk improvements, and the other is 70-84A2, which is fire hydrants. Here's an aerial of the property. You can see the location of the site. At the subdivision meeting, it was discussed on the fire hydrant, and the ordinance states that a fire hydrant has to be within 500 feet of a residential property. This one is about 625 feet. You can see the existing fire hydrant that's on the corner of Gulick and Cooter Street. At the meeting, subdivision meeting, it was also discussed that Cooter Street is a dead-end street. It'll never be extended. Most of the property that can be developed is currently developed. The fire department has stated that that fire hydrant is sufficient to serve the existing dwellings along with the proposed new dwelling. The second section, or the second requirement, was the street improvements, and it was for Cooter Street. The subdivision regulations state that the type of street is determined by the size of the lot. And the size of the proposed lot would require a type A street. Type A street is concrete street, curb and gutter street, and sidewalk on both sides. However, again, Cuda Street can never be extended, and the reason why is everything you see highlighted in blue is floodplain. So the street will never go all the way through, plus all the property that basically can be developed, with the exception of the proposed site, is currently developed unless the church decides to sell off some property. So Subdivision Review Committee and staff both recommended approval of the plat and the variance. At the Planning Commission meeting, Planning Commission approved the variance, and they recommended approval of the plat. Planning Commission is the one who makes the determination on whether to approve or deny the variance. But it is still subject to City Council approving the plat itself. Be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Garvin?
And they're aware that this is a floodplain they're building in.
Yes, they are aware.
Well, I guess technically they're not. It's close.
Well, you can see where it gets very close to it.
Yeah.
I started to say this last rain we got, that water was up in that yard.
Yeah, and
Because I was driving through there.
they have an application for a floodplain permit, and according to the application, they're going to be 2 foot above the base flood elevation before they build.
Move for approval. Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other thoughts or discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kell.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Item number 3.
Consider approval of the renewal of a 10-year lease beginning on July 1, 2017, between the City of Muskogee and the Oklahoma Department of Rehabilitation Services for the property commonly known as Civitan Park, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, many of you may remember every 3 years we bring this lease up for renewal. Since 1968, we have leased from the Department of Rehabilitative Services the land under which Civitan Park sits. We have maintained and developed Civitan Park to be a very useful and beautiful park over in the Gibson area next to the School for the Blind. This year, we had reached out to our friends at the Department of Rehabilitation and asked if there was any way that we could get a lease that was longer than 3 years. So they referred me to their legal counsel, and he and I had a discussion, and they have submitted back a 10-year lease. Because it is our plan to continue the operation of Civitan Park as a public park in perpetuity. So the longer the lease, the more assistance we can have in submitting for additional grants and those types of things, and to ensure that we will always have the opportunity to build and improve the park so that its use for the public can be realized. So no additional terms or major changes to the lease that was submitted, with the exception of it now being a 10-year lease versus a 3-year lease. So happy to answer any questions. Met with Mr. Wilkerson, who is also recommending approval, as do I. Thank you.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kell.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Item number 4.
Discuss proposed agreement for engineering services between Muskogee Municipal Authority and Cowan Group Engineering for modeling the city's water distribution system, and provide necessary direction to staff.
Mr. Riley.
Mr. Chairman and committee members, this is the next step in improving our water system. And what this is a contract with Cowan Group Engineering to create a computer model of the water system that we have in the ground. And to come up with this model, they're going to use actual data with what are called pressure meters throughout the city to actually get what we actually have in the ground versus whether it may be a restricted pipe or anything. We'll know what we have, and then from this model we'll be able to determine what projects we need in the future as we go to the Oklahoma Water Resources Board for additional monies in the future as to what projects we need. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Item number 5.
Consider approval of City Council Policy 3-3-2, General Leave Policy, or take other necessary action.
Good.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. This first policy that I have here for you is our general leave policy. This policy defines what types of leave can be taken within the city. There are several policies that I'm currently working on, which are listed on the last page of this policy. That's kind of a push. When Mr. Miller first became assistant city manager, I had handed him about a dozen policies, and we've been working through them as we had with the previous city managers. We've worked through these 3. This, again, is the general leave policy. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I recommend approval.
Any questions?
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Item number 6.
Consider approval of City Council Policy 3-3-6, Administrative Leave Policy, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, again, this is another policy that we've been trying to get pushed through. It is the administrative leave policy. There's different types of reasons people can take administrative leave. It's paid leave for educational purposes, investigations, things of that nature. In addition, this policy would provide exempt employees with 40 hours of administrative leave per year, in addition to the other benefits that they already receive. I'm happy to answer any questions again, and I recommend approval.
Questions?
Move for approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Item number 7.
Consider approval of City Council Policy 3-2-2, Pay Administration, or take other necessary action.
One more time.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, this policy is part of our strategic plan that we have been working on over the last couple of years. This policy was specified in the strategic plan. This policy establishes all of the pay administration for general employees and non-uniformed employees, including pay periods, what types of pay they will receive, longevity pay, out-of-class pay, standby pay, pay upon promotion, demotions, lateral move, things of that nature. We have not had a policy like this in place. Again, general employees have historically followed the AFSCME provisions. Most of these provisions are the same. However, there are some differences within this policy and what the AFSCME contract allows. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I recommend approval.
Move for approval again.
Second again.
Got a motion and a second. Any other thoughts? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Seeing that no one signed up to speak to this committee, we are adjourned.
We'll now call to order the special call meeting in Muskogee City Council. Roll call, please.
I lost my sheet. Yes.
You don't
Mayor
have a
Bob
memo?
Coburn.
Here.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Here.
Dan Hall.
Here.
Marlon Coleman. Janie Boydston.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Patrick Kale.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Derek Reed.
Here.
Item number 1.
Hold a public hearing to receive input and comments from citizens and discuss the City of Muskogee budget for fiscal year 2017-2018, as well as the proposed budgets for the Muskogee Parking Authority and the Muskogee Municipal Authority, and take any necessary action.
We will now consider ourselves in a public hearing, but no one has signed up to speak to this issue. Mr. Miller, you want to go ahead and give us an introduction
Sure.
of the issue?
Yeah, we have put together the budget as required and looking forward to next fiscal year. We've covered some of this in the council retreat and have taken the suggestions and comments made there and incorporated those into this document. You have in your packet a 140-plus page document that details the budget, and what I'm going to present now is really an overview of that that I'm going to present in the slideshow. But before we get very far along for next year's budget, I want us to think a little bit about some of the positive things we've done this year. I've got a very short list that I want us to look at. We've got a lot of things that we can say that we've done this year with this year's budget that are impressive. And these are a few of the things that I've pulled from the document that you have. MLK Street completion, the URA land under contract, auditing in our revenue and keeping a closer track of that and increasing our revenue in many cases. The fleet management, once again, being named in the nation's top 100, finishing the parking lot across from the Little Theater, the East Side Interceptor project being finished and getting the loan amount for a huge amount of infrastructure projects moving forward. The new children's garden at the Honor Heights Pavilion, and nearly $1 million in grants from trail improvements. And I should say those aren't foundation grants; those are above and beyond the foundation. That we're going outside to get grants for trail improvements. The azalea cleanup again this year, and water line improvements. We've gotten our wait times and our backlog of water leaks down, cut in less than half of what it was a year ago because of, again, the money we budgeted to do that this year. As we're trying to address the larger infrastructure issues with that loan that we talked about, we're dealing with them in the short term much better than we have. So as we move to the budget, the overall big picture is our overall total projected revenues is that number, and $79,532,000. As you follow along in your packet, that's on page 13. But our general fund is where we're going to spend most of our time. And this is an important slide for us because you can see that for the first time in 5 years, our revenues from the fiscal year that we're entering, we propose will be greater than the expenditures in that fiscal year. We're not going to have to use our savings account, if you will, to try and get us through the year. We've spent through that. We really don't have an option to keep doing that in the future, and so this budget that we have is a result of a lot of hard work from our department heads and staff all throughout the organization that have had to make hard choices about how we do the work we do and how we provide the service we provide to citizens. So I want us to look at that, and what you'll see is ever so slightly that blue line is $14,000, $14,972 higher than that red line. So we have this draft budget, the proposed budget that we bring you today. So any changes or modifications that we make between now and the time the budget is adopted, we hope to keep obviously within that sort of range of projecting a surplus in revenue over expenditures. And so we did that by not having a whole lot of sunshine. We have, for lack of a better term, we projected our sales tax in a very realistic way. We didn't say we're going to balance the budget by having higher than expected revenues. Recurring sales tax this year is down 2% over last year, and our projections project sales tax declining another 2% next year. So we feel like that's realistic, and most of the other revenues are projected as flat from this year's expected actuals as well. So we had to get to where we are in the budget, we had to not only be realistic with our assumptions on revenue, but also on our expenditures. So we get to the key elements of the general fund, and how we got there on expenses is a large part was due to 14 fewer positions being funded. All these positions are either currently unfilled or expected to be unfilled by July 1. This is basically attrition. This is not instituting layoffs or any sort of anything drastic of that measure, but it is something that we've been looking at through the year, and we feel like we can do this moving forward. We have budgeted for all expenses, and we'll cover some of that as we go through the budget, some things that have cropped up in this year and in other years where we may have been budgeting or forgetting to budget an expense here or there. We feel like we've covered a lot of those all of those that we know about, and so hopefully there's not going to be unanticipated surprises. We have, for the first time, allocated some money for anticipated retirements. Right now, if someone retires We try and pay them out of the same budget that they're paid, their accruals, their leave balances that they're entitled to when they leave. But sometimes that puts us over the budget. In one instance, we've got one budget that's about 120% overspent. Well, it's not, they haven't been irresponsible with their money. It's a relatively small department, and they had someone retire with a high leave balance. So this kind of alleviates those sort of situations. It's money that we're going to have to pay anyway, and so we're actually budgeting for it. The budget also includes money for employee wage increases. That's hard to do in a year like this, but as the strategic plan that you all have outlined for the city, one of the priorities is to try and bring employee wages up to market wages and to pay what other cities pay. And I fully believe that our employees are certainly as good as employees in other cities. And I like the fact that we are, even in a tough year, trying to be able to set aside money to increase wages this year for our employees. Other things to mention that I talked about it before, but the budget surplus doesn't include carryover. It doesn't include using our savings account. It is just using the revenues from this year to pay this coming year to pay for the expenses in this coming year. And therefore, if we have any savings next year that can build back our reserves, our reserves are at a very, very low level, our unrestricted reserves especially. And so we want to make sure that we're able to build those back and use those in ways other cities do to pay off capital projects and pay for things as we go rather than borrowing money. So that's more of a future goal, but we can start that process by building this year. Some bright spots. Again, revenues are projected higher than expenses. We've set money aside for increases for employees, and the budget surplus allows the reserve fund to grow. And another bright spot that I really want to mention, again, probably more than once, is this budget includes more than $1 million set aside for infrastructure improvements. This is us, again, following the strategic plan and putting money where it's been called for in the past. So we're going to look at a couple of the other budgets now. Our economic development budget, we are using it basically for the same sorts of stuff that we have been using it in the past. The one thing I want to call your attention to is that one of the things we haven't budgeted for in the past is that second item, the interest and property tax on in the URA and interest and principal payments on our Three Corners loan. These are loans that we hope to be able to pay back as we sell land in those areas, but we have to budget for the expense in case we don't sell the land during the fiscal year. And so we're proposing to use economic development money to do that. These are obviously economic development projects. And so in the past, we have, by ordinance, set aside money for special projects, about $300,000 a year. We're proposing this year that we use that not to bank for future projects, but to use it for existing projects. And those two in particular, so that we're able to make the payments on those loans and keep those moving forward without having to dip into our general fund. That's strapped, and this is an economic development money. So as we go forward, we will bring an ordinance change that will allow that if the council so chooses. Our next budget that I want to present to you in high-level detail is our hotel motel tax budget that comes in. It's devoted to tourism, and so it's projected we're using it for the same things that we have been using it for traditionally. We're projecting it to be about $950,000 in the coming year. Another one of our big budgets is the municipal authority, and it is again where we're putting the increases, the anticipated increases in the water and sewer rates that have already been approved that go into effect this next fiscal year. They're all being saved into the MMA to be used specifically for debt service, repairs, replacement, maintenance on the water and sewer lines. And again, that's one of our big successes, is we've never had a war chest like this to deal with things as they come up and to rapidly respond and even be proactive on our infrastructure. So that really is truly a budget highlight. Our capital outlay, the details, of course, are in your packet on page 129. But the 2 or 3 things I want to point out here. One is a time and attendance system that will help us be able to better manage our workforce, be able to manage overtime and schedule our staff. Right now, our system for that is rather archaic, and most organizations our size don't use pencil and paper to track time for their 400-plus employees. It's inefficient, and it leads to errors that can cost us money, and we think that that system will save us money over the long run. We also have additional money in here to try and implement a program to update our police car fleet. Right now, our police fleet plan is to have a car last 15 years and then replace it. I don't think that's a good plan. I'm working with the police department to come to you with a better one, and some of that is revenue and capital outlay that can help kickstart it the first year, but I think it has to be sustainable not going forward, and capital outlay should not be the only place that the revenue's coming from. So those are a few of the highlights from the capital outlay budget. Police and fire also have separate capital outlay budgets. There's a couple of things there that the fire is using theirs for their first responder program, and some new gear for the firefighters. But the majority of it we are setting aside for construction of fire station number 5. And so we've talked about that. We're very close to getting a decision point on a location for that. But it's going to cost far more than that $350,000, but we're saving up in that fund to try and be able to pay down as much as possible and borrow as little as possible when the time comes. The police department, their current plan basically is to fund all their debt service for their vehicles out of their capital outlay fund. And so, again, that's the one that we're trying to update that plan and make it a little more feasible, that we don't expect the vehicles to all last 15 years. We have other funds, certainly, and a lot of these are general, or I should say, enterprise funds. And so I just want to point out that Swim and Fitness Center, River Country Water Park, Park Development Fund, these are all budgeted with no general fund subsidy. So they go out and they do what they're supposed to do, and they raise the money it costs to operate. And so as we have discussed at the retreat, there may be we may look at some of the fees associated with that to make sure that they continue to have those as costs go up. But they do require no general fund subsidy. So that's our general overview. That's the big picture on the budget. You see our calendar that we put forward. We do propose adoption next Monday, if you so recommend. And certainly I've breezed through this. You guys may have lots of comments and questions, and we can go into any level of detail that you'd like. That's what we're here for. So I'll leave it there and take questions and comments and address any issues you may have.
Questions or comments for the manager?
I'd like to show my appreciation for the department heads and other city staff that have worked so diligently on this budget. In trying times, it's a tough task, and they've all done a great job, not with a not very pleasant situation, but they've all done a wonderful job. I'd like to further note my appreciation and respect for my peers on the council at taking a proactive and serious approach into trying to increase our employees' wages. I feel that that's been neglected over the years, and not the current past years, but just for years and years. And the council as a whole, I believe, is wanting to move into a long-term direction to try to address employee wages, and it's tough for the council, and and to try to make everything work with a tight budget. But it's nice to see that everybody's very serious about that, and it genuinely concerns them, and I really appreciate it.
Other comments?
So if we move for approval, it still will have a public hearing Monday night? So
What I'd recommend is that you make a motion to recommend approval at the council, the regularly scheduled council meeting on Monday.
so moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there comment or discussion additionally? Let me kind of echo some of the comments that Councilman Kale has done. This has probably been the best budget preparation year that I've experienced in the last five, 6, 7 years. It's the staff has done an excellent job, and I think your leadership skills in that area, Mike, are to be commended, and I appreciate that. And as I had mentioned previously, Jean Kingston, our treasurer, has done an outstanding job, and her she doesn't appear to be as stressed as previous years. It's come together in a way that's been very organized and very prepared, and she obviously is a big part of that. Mike Stewart, in his new capacity, has done a great job at helping put that budget together, knowing the ins and outs of running the city for the last 30-plus years. And so I, too, am grateful for the way the budget was put together, for council's perusal of the budget in the past few weeks, and I think we're to a point of moving forward toward Monday night. So we have a motion, we have a second. Is there anyone make any additional comments? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes?
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. That would conclude our budget. Let me get back to be sure I'm telling you the right thing. Yeah, that concludes our budget for this special call meeting. Thank you for joining us.